I would really approach it as a content strategy also because that's the only way that you're gonna pull it through. So I would really think, who are you creating it for? Is it really for an audience that would be your younger self? Is it to attract potential clients? And also finding the platform where you can reach those people. And then also, what is the type of content that you would like to talk about? Is it really more a documentation of the stuff that you do at work? So maybe you have some frameworks, maybe you have some processes, maybe you have some things that you discuss. So during the week, in my messy Excel, I collect ideas, maybe stuff that I've seen, discussions that I had with clients, with my employer, colleagues, whatever. And so Saturday, I have half of day where I get back those ideas and I create all the content.
Welcome to the Internal Marketing Podcast, the unique podcast series that flips the marketing conversation from external to internal, exploring all the ways that companies can build the brand and drive growth by engaging and empowering its employees to become effective ambassadors of the company brand. I'm your host, Kerry-Ann Stimson, and I'm very happy to bring you this episode where we'll be talking about how employees can create engaging content for social media. But first, this season's sponsor is Workshop, the #1 email tool for internal communications. They created a delightful weekly newsletter for marketing and comms professionals called the Happy Monday Club. If you could use a dose of practical resources, examples of incredible company cultures, and ideas for bringing fresh thinking to your work, this is the newsletter for you. Every Monday, the Workshop team puts together an inspiring list of articles from some of the world's top workplaces, helpful email and internal comms templates, and the occasional giveaway or surprise. Join over 30,000 comms and marketing professionals and sign up now at happymondayclub.com. Now, let's jump into this conversation with my featured guest, Sara Stella Lattanzio. Sara is a B2B content marketing advisor, and she'll be sharing about how employees can create engaging content for social media. Hi, Sara. Thank you so much for joining me on the Internal Marketing Podcast. I'm very happy to have you.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, Carrie.
Oh, this is going to be a great conversation. I'm really, really always inspired by the content you share on LinkedIn around the whole matter of content marketing. And specifically within the context of the Internal Marketing Podcast, where we're talking about how do we engage and empower our employees to be advocates of the brand. One of the ways that employees can do that is by creating their own content on social media platforms. And I know a lot of employees are seeming to kind of slowly but surely pick up on the idea that that's something great to do, because not only, yes, does it help the company brand that they represent, but it also helps to build their personal brands as well. And so the whole matter of how do we engage employees and help them to know how to create great content, I think is a conversation that's worthwhile having on a podcast like this. And of course, I always like to start out my conversations with a level setting questions, Sara, which is, why should employees be creating content anyway? In your view, why should they even be doing that?
I think it's an interesting topic because it's obviously a different perspective on the whole content topic compared to what I usually talk about. But I think it's important to make a distinction. So I would not say that in general it is important for employees to create content on social media. I think it can be important if there is a bigger plan and if also they enjoy doing it. And I would kind of make two categories. So one is purely the employer branding component. So employees really sharing what it is to work like at a company. And then there is the thought leadership component, which would be more experts talking about their expertise and tying it back to the company. So in one way, it's important because they would advertise the company as a great place to work, while the experts would drive potentially business.
I get that. And, everybody needs to have their why. And I agree, so when we talk about employees creating content, it may not be something that's suitable for everybody to do.
but it certainly has its benefits. And, as we're talking about that, Sarah, I know that there are some companies who are actually a little bit concerned and nervous about this whole idea of
Mm.
employees who choose to create content for social media platforms and great platforms like LinkedIn. And I know you yourself, you work for somebody, and I mean, you create awesome content on LinkedIn. So clearly, you probably have had that conversation with your employer about the fact that you do this. And it's not necessarily about the company that you work for, but it's just something that you're passionate about doing, perhaps. But I mean, as an employee yourself and as someone who knows the landscape of this thing, why should companies be comfortable with their employees creating content? I mean, what would you say to those company leaders who are probably nervous or don't know how to take all this in?
I mean, the question is why are they nervous? Because if the problem is really rooted in the culture that is micromanaging and controlling, then I don't think nothing will convince them otherwise. If it's just a matter of fear of leaking sensitive information or something like that, obviously some guidelines can help. Even if, I mean, when you join a company, usually you sign a confidentiality agreement, and this would be part of it. So I don't think anybody is that stupid to share customer data or stuff like that. Personally, my own experience was that I was still at my previous employer when I started, which was a much smaller company. So it was really a startup, 50 people. I didn't even announce it or anything. I mean, usually startups are a lot cooler with that. And now I am at a bigger company with about 700 people, and there somebody might expect, that it would be a bit more controlled. But actually, for my superior, it was really like plus that I was so active, and he was always very encouraging with me. I mean, I held a lot of personal branding and yeah, content creation workshops also for our executives. And for me, actually, it's very nice when I can talk about topics that somehow tie back to either my clients or my full-time role, right? Because it's obviously I can bring on case studies, I can bring on projects that I work on, and it's a bit like I repurpose the documentation that I have already. So it's kind of better for me because I have less work than creating content from scratch, but it's also great for them because they get visibility from that.
Yes, indeed, I'm sure. And I mean, you're talking about your own experience, which actually is a great segue into my next question because you talked about when you first started to create content on LinkedIn. Yeah, you were at another employer, a smaller startup. But I'm curious to know, and I'm sure our listeners would probably want to know as well about your own personal experience because we talk about employees or just people generally. I mean, if you look at like LinkedIn, right? We know that LinkedIn has so many people who have profiles on LinkedIn, but barely 5% of people who have a profile on LinkedIn are actually creating content. So
Mm.
you and I are part of a very small, I like to say elite group of people who create content on LinkedIn, but you had to get started. And I mean, I'd love to know if you could share with us what are some of the initial hurdles that you had to overcome to, if any, I guess, to create content? I mean, did you struggle at all mentally? Well, how do you get started? I guess we just love a peek into that initial phase of your journey about what caused you to take that step and how did you actually get started?
I mean, for me, it wasn't really hard because I always was experimenting with social media. And back in the day, I had really a big blog, so I already experienced the virality or kind of building followers, building an audience. And somehow I think I need it. I really need a place to channel my thoughts, my creativity. And since it's marketing related, job related, then I felt, social media platform is the best place, where I can also, I mean, if I would be sharing maybe something more related to psychology or my personal life, maybe I wouldn't do it with my name attached to it in front of, my colleagues and whatever. But I was like, okay, actually LinkedIn. seems like a good platform because, it's relatively new, but I see also people really using it as, I mean, new in the sense from a content creation perspective. 2.5 years ago when I started, not many people even knew that there were content creators on LinkedIn. And so I don't know, I'm more of an all or nothing person. So either I don't do it, or if I do it, I really do it right. And so I think, yes, I just, started. I was like, okay, what is the right rhythm for me? And I felt 3 times per week is the right rhythm. At the beginning, it was really more about B2B marketing overall, like from everything from email to strategy to personal branding. And now become really focused on content marketing for B2B, also in connection to my own side business.
Wow, wow, and
Yeah.
it's really been an amazing journey. What, in your view, are some of the steps that employees should take? For those folks listening who they work for a company, they want to get started creating content on LinkedIn, on a platform like LinkedIn or X. It doesn't really matter, but they just really want to start creating content. It could be a podcast, it could be a blog. What are some of the steps that you believe employees can take to create content that's valuable and engaging for their communities?
Are you thinking more of something that is tied to the company or something in general, like even that is not strictly tied to the company?
Right, and that's the thing. I think employees probably need to, that's probably the first question they would have to ask, because I think there are some employees who probably would feel comfortable kind of talking about, their role at an organization. So let's say I work with an investment house and I'm a financial advisor. I may want to talk about the kind of work that we do, what we provide, the services, the guidance. And then I may just be a financial advisor that's just, hey, I just want to do my own independent blog about how to plan for retirement, your journey to retirement. I think that's probably the first question they would have to ask. So to me, I guess it could be either one, perhaps.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, obviously, in some industries, you might want to first get approval. I mean, it's not my case, but in certain industry, you want to do it. And second, I mean, I would really approach it as a content strategy also because that's the only way that you're gonna pull it through and that you're not gonna, every time that you have a post, think, oh my God, and now what, you know? So I would really think, who are you creating it for? Is it really for an audience that would be your younger self? Is it to attract potential clients? And also finding the platform where you can reach those people or that you I mean, au pair, if you have several platforms that would allow you to reach those people, maybe you want to pick the one that you're most comfortable with, like I don't know, I would not feel well on YouTube because I don't have the time. And also if I would, like, I don't know, pushing out long form video would drain me completely. So that's a bit the first question. And then also what is the type of message, what is the type of content that you would like to talk about? Is it really more a documentation of the stuff that you do at work? So maybe you have some frameworks, maybe you have some processes, maybe you have some things that you discuss. And so you would basically draft the content pillars in a way. And I think already having all of these three things somehow put black on white would give you a jump start to do it. And then when you do it, you would probably notice, how to systemize it better. Do you need, I don't know, calendar? Do you need an Excel sheet? I mean, I still have an Excel sheet. Like, I don't even have Taplio. I don't even have Field. I never use those things. And for me, that's totally fine. Another thing that helps me a lot is, for example, Saturday morning is my content creation day. So during the week, in my messy Excel, I collect ideas, maybe stuff that I've seen, discussions that I had with clients, with my employer, colleagues, whatever. And so Saturday, I have half of day where I get back those ideas and I create all the content, so I don't have to go back in the week because the on and off is really draining. That's a bit.
Yeah, wow. That's some great insight because, I mean, I'll be honest, when I follow you, I'm like, when does Sarah create all of this stuff?
Really want.
It's like, wow, and but I like the fact that you started out by sharing, first of all, it's good to be clear about your audience. Who are you creating content for? Right. And then using the opportunity to ensure that you're designing content that's for them, because that's the thing when we talk about engaging content, it's like it's only engaging once it's valuable for the audience to whom it was intended, right? So being clear about your audience and being clear about what's the kind of content that they would find value from, and creating that content, and of course dedicating the time to do so. I'm glad you mentioned your Excel spreadsheet. I mean, what are some of the things you think like I need to have in my basic toolkit as an employee to create content? I mean, just from your experience, what are some of the things that would be useful to help me to be able to do that in addition to your Excel spreadsheet, which is great,
I
by the way. I have it too.
The I mean, I don't know. I think it really depends on what platform you choose. I think if it's LinkedIn, in the end, you theoretically you don't need anything because you can if you can just create text posts, then you're fine. I mean, for me, the most important is Canva. I have and honestly, it's been a super hack because I have a billion carousels there, and especially the more content you create, the more content you have to repurpose and the faster you have because I have basically now templates for any type of carousels that I want to do. Like it's a bit like a pitch deck, you just take the templates, then you edit the text and you're good to go. So before, I don't know, first times when I created the carousels took me a lot of time because I had to create the template, but now it's easy. And I mean, and Canva is also free. I have the paid version, but I mean, I don't know, $100 per year. So I guess everybody should be able to afford it. And another tool that I really, really love. I mean, I use it for everything. I mean, if I had to choose one tool, I would use this. It's Miro because I don't know, I think you can really sketch things out and the flow charts. And so yeah, when I create, for example, flow charts or diagrams, I think that's very nice.
Okay.
Uh, Basically, kind of yeah, dashboard, a collaboration
Okay.
dashboard where you
I
can
see.
build flow charts and post it. So it's something also that is mainly used, was mainly used. Now it's used by marketing, but for product teams, because they would build all the wireframes and all of those things. And for, remote workshops, because then you have all the teams collaborating in real time, and they can put sticky notes on stuff. So I really love the tool. Yeah. Now I use it
No?
more for designing things. So for example,
Okay.
if I have a flow chart, for example, like yes, no, all of those things, then I design it in Miro and I
Mhm.
copy it as an image and put it on Canva to create
Canva.
the whole thing. So but
Got
but
you.
it's nice because in Miro it's very dynamic. So the arrows are dynamic, while in Canva you need to design everything. So that. And I mean, I also obviously, if you have, I don't know, if you're creating content on YouTube, you will have all the video equipment that you need. I still love a lot creating video content, but one thing is doing 4 minutes, 3 minutes video a week. One thing is doing 20-minute long form content with all the equipment. So for that, I use my iPhone and I use CapCut and TikTok.
CapCut. Yes, CapCut is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Seriously. So very amatorial, but it does the job. So
It certainly does. And you know what I love about everything that you're sharing now, Sarah, is that it's all of these things are accessible, right? So you got your Excel spreadsheet. Who doesn't have access to an Excel spreadsheet? Even with Canva, yes, there's the paid version, but there's a free version that works just as well. I mean, so it's suitable for any pocket. Miro is there that you can use as well. I love the fact that you just talk about you use your phone. You don't need a fancy schmancy camera setup. with floodlights and teleprompters to do nice. And the thing is, your videos, even, I pick it up that you do it on your phone. I'm not surprised by that. But doing it on your phone, which is great, at the end of the day, you're still creating valuable content, So it doesn't matter whether you have a big fancy schmancy camera or you're doing it on your phone. You're engaging because you're providing valuable content for your community, and they obviously appreciate that. And so I think it's great. What you're sharing is really, really very accessible. I mean,
Yeah, I think it's not anymore really about, the fancy equipment. I mean, probably if I would be a YouTuber, I would invest in a camera, but I think it's fine for my use.
yeah, yeah. What do you think company can do to support or help or encourage their employees to create content? I mean, what role do you think a company can play in that process?
I mean, obviously internal workshops is one thing. So, I mean, the marketing team, just like I did, can, give some insights. For example, we had this social selling workshop that I held. I had like 3 half a days with really like full on program. And for example, I invited Laura Erdem. I don't know if you know her. She's kind of an account executive at Dream Data, because I thought, if
Yes,
I
I
bring on
do.
somebody who's actually done the job, and it's not just like me, because they might think, oh, the marketing girl is biased, So I thought it was very, very awesome to leverage Laura's experience, and also how she generated pipeline for for Dream Data. So it's definitely not a marketing thing, and it was pretty eye-opening for everybody. So this sort of thing, so making it part of somebody's marketing job, but also in the end, a company, for example, we have Canva subscription, we have Miro subscription, we have all of those things. And, if we would have employees that would be really, yes, I want to create my own content, about the company, and also about the company, whatever, doesn't matter. I mean, obviously, you give tools if they want also to touch upon the company, not all the time, but you wouldn't give tools if they want to build their own business. That's what I mean. So let's say if somebody's like, yes, I want to be an ambassador, I want to talk about my project, I want to be a thought leader for this company, then we would be very happy to give them those tools at disposal, maybe create some templates that they can use. So basically, all the work that I did for myself, we would be happy to do it for them and create some prompts, maybe tell them a bit how to use ChatGPT in some ways that it's not just like write me a post, but it's also very hard to have employees that, really are super motivated and want to do it, also because you will never be able to make an impact if you don't have your own plan. And um, yeah, and also do it in your free time. I mean, nobody pays me for half of my Saturday that is gone, So
Yeah.
that's a bit the problem, I think.
Yeah. I think those tips that you gave about how companies can support is great, because if companies can empower their employees through, as you mentioned, things like an internal workshop, which I think is a great idea. I know one of the things we did at my company was provide like personal branding training, which is helping people to get the clarity around how they want to show up, how they want to be perceived, the community that they want to build, the people they want to serve, who they want to create content for is one thing. And if a company can really be deliberate about empowering its employees by giving them those basic tools to get started, I think it's great. I've heard stories of companies going as far as saying, look, if you want to start a podcast and there's a commitment to that, we'll buy you like a microphone or something, to get started, or maybe pay for the subscription for the virtual online studio, whatever it is. Some companies go that far into it, but I guess, every company is different. So certainly leave it up to them. But I'm glad you started that. But the way you ended it, which is, I think, one of the big points that a lot of people don't bargain on, is the fact that it takes that commitment. And you, Sarah, are a great example of that. I mean, you commit half of your Saturday, as you say, you're not getting paid, but you commit half of your Saturday to create content and to do it in a way that's generous and empowering and value added. And clearly, again, you have a very strong and solid community that appreciates that. I think that's also what employees would need to appreciate as well, is that it's not just a willy-nilly, yeah, I want to start creating content. Woohoo. It's about that commitment and the discipline and the consistency that's required to show up routinely in a way that your community can expect and rely on you to do so. I think that's a really great way to kind of segue as we move to wrap this up, which is, I go into this part of my conversation that usually call the final nugget or the final takeaway, which I love to ask all my great guests like you for everything that you would have shared. What, in your view, is the most important takeaway that you'd want our audience to come away with having heard everything you would have shared?
I would say the biggest success possibility you have to implement such a program is really being very realistic and very explicative about what this means. That it's not just like share a post, like our post. I mean, that's better than nothing, obviously. But I would really encourage to take a person that has done it and is probably close to the people who want to be active on social media so that they can understand what the outcome is and see at the end of the journey, and also pull through the beginning, which is the hardest part, but then they will also have the takeaway at the end, if they stay the course and are consistent. So make really this education. Otherwise, I think most companies really just stop at the share a post, like our post, or post your own thing, post a link to the blog, and that will not move the needle at all. Then it's better that people do something else, I guess.
Yes, indeed. I appreciate that. And it's a necessary point to raise, and I'm glad that you raised it, that it really is about that focus, that commitment, and just being deliberate. And what I like about your particular way of creating content, Sarah, is that it's not just about Sarah and the spotlight pointing on Sarah. It's about how you engage with your community as well. So you're also being generous in terms of how you comment under people's content as well. You're engaging with their content in as much as they're engaging with yours. So it's that spirit of reciprocity and generosity that it's part of creating community, which is it's not just, okay, I'm just gonna post and ghost, and like my stuff. And it's about that reciprocity. And I think that's really important to raise. Sarah, this has been such a great conversation, and I'm so appreciative that you took the time out of your very, very busy schedule. I'm like, where does Sarah find time to do all this stuff? But,
Thank you.
I always like to ask my guests who have been so generous with sharing their knowledge and insights with us, how can we, the internal marketing tribe, support you, Sarah?
I mean, you can just say hi on LinkedIn and follow me. That's the best way to see what I'm doing.
Awesome. Awesome. We certainly will. And yes, folks, I encourage everybody to find Sarah on LinkedIn. I will put your LinkedIn link. The link to your LinkedIn profile will be in the show notes. So folks can just click and follow you over there and connect and engage. And yes, folks, you're gonna get some great content, great valuable insights about all things B2B content from Sarah. So, Sarah, thank you so much for joining me again today. I appreciate you very much. And I'll see you on LinkedIn.
Thanks so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Internal Marketing Podcast. I'm sure you got some great takeaways from this conversation. And if you haven't already subscribed to the Internal Marketing Podcast, then please join the tribe. And don't forget to leave a review and share this podcast with anyone whom you believe will find it valuable as well. I'm your host, Kerry-Ann Stimson, and I look forward to your joining me next time.